Hello, dear members of the Soul and Real Stories family. Today, we will bring you a romantic love story, so let's get started. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any meaningful stories. Part 1. Collision. Olivia Reed stood in front of the mirror in her small Brooklyn apartment, adjusting her gray blazer and smoothing her shoulder-length brown hair. Today was her first day as head of human resources at Innovatech, a leading technology corporation in Manhattan, New York. At 28, she was proud of her achievements. Graduating with honors in HR management, 5 years of experience at startups, and now a major step forward in her career. She was ready to transform Innovatech into an ideal workplace where employees came not just for the paycheck, but for a sense of belonging. She grabbed her latte from the coffee shop downstairs, hopped on the subway, and 40 minutes later stood before Innovatech's gleaming glass building. The 42nd floor, where she'd work, was a modern space with transparent glass walls, open workstations, and employees in company logo hoodies clutching MacBooks, moving quickly as if racing in an invisible competition. Olivia, in her sleek blazer and pointed toe heels, felt slightly out of place among this tech bro crowd, but she didn't mind. She was here to do her job, not to fit in. After stepping out of the elevator, she was led to her private office by Sophie, a young HR assistant. It was a tidy corner with a glass door overlooking the Manhattan skyline, a light wooden desk, and a cushioned swivel chair. "You're the first HR head here in 2 years," Sophie said, her voice tinged with unease. "Daniel doesn't like keeping HR around long." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Daniel Morgan, the CEO." Sophie nodded. "He's tough. Be careful." Olivia gave a small smile. "Thanks, but I've handled enough bosses to know how to manage." She sat down, opened her laptop, and started her day by checking her meeting schedule. Then she drafted an introductory email to all employees. But first, she wanted to message Rachel, her best friend in marketing, to brag about her first day. She opened the email app and typed quickly, "First day at Innovatech. CEO Daniel Morgan is a total medieval king, but I'll show him who really manages people around here." She hit send, and then it hit her. She hadn't sent it via iMessage like usual. She'd sent an email, not to Rachel, but to Daniel Morgan himself. Olivia nearly dropped her latte on the desk. "No, no, no," she muttered, her trembling hands opening the sent folder. There it was, clear as day. To Daniel.Morgan@Innovatech.com. In her haste, she'd mistyped from the company directory. She had to delete that email before he saw it. There was no other option. Olivia bolted up, rushed out of her office, and turned to Sophie at the desk outside. "Where's the CEO's office?" "You're going to see him now." Sophie's eyes widened. "He hates being disturbed, especially on Monday mornings." "If I don't disturb him, I'm out of a job." Olivia shot back, then dashed to the oak double doors at the end of the hall where a small plaque read "Morgan, CEO." She knocked. No answer. She pushed lightly. The door wasn't locked. Inside was a spacious room with a glass desk, a black leather chair, a bookshelf packed with tech titles, and a large wardrobe in the corner. Daniel's laptop sat open on the desk, its screen glowing. Olivia glanced around. "No one," she muttered. "Just delete the email and get out." She stepped toward the desk, but then heard water running from the small adjacent bathroom. He was in there. She was about to dart to the computer when the bathroom door swung open. In a split second, Olivia dove into the wardrobe, pulling the door shut just enough to hide. It was pitch dark inside, a whiff of masculine cologne making her slightly dizzy. She stood still, holding her breath, praying he wouldn't open it. But life doesn't play fair. The wardrobe door flew open. There stood Daniel Morgan, tall, dark hair wet and clinging to his forehead, wearing nothing but a white towel around his waist. Fresh from a shower, a few water droplets lingered on his shoulders. His piercing blue eyes stared at her as if she were an alien that had just crash-landed from another planet. "Reed," His deep voice was cold enough to give her goosebumps. "What are you doing in my wardrobe?" Olivia panicked, her hand instinctively clutching a white dress shirt hanging beside her like a lifeline. "I was checking storage space because employees need comfortable spaces, right?" Daniel frowned, clearly not buying a word. "And you check by hiding in there." She swallowed hard, trying to maintain professionalism despite her pounding heart. "Actually, I got the wrong room. Sorry, I'll go." But Daniel stepped forward, blocking her path. He crossed his arms, the motion causing the towel to slip slightly, and Olivia quickly averted her gaze, her ears burning red. "Not so fast. I just saw an interesting email from you. Is that what you were trying to delete?" Olivia froze. He'd read it. He walked to the desk, opened his laptop, and read aloud. "First day at Innovatech. CEO Daniel Morgan is a total medieval king, but I'll show him who really manages people around here." He looked up, his lips curling into a dangerous smirk. "Medieval king, huh? Who do you think you are to manage me?" "I didn't mean it like that," Olivia stammered. "It was just a joke. HR is here to help others," Daniel said, his tone icy. "Not sneak into people's wardrobes like a spy." "Impressive first day, Reed." Olivia blushed, unsure whether to flee or apologize again. But Daniel just scanned her from head to toe and said, "You've got 1 week to prove you're not useless. Don't disappoint me." Olivia's first day at Innovatech ended with a warning and a gut feeling she just provoked someone she shouldn't have. After the wardrobe incident, Olivia Reed decided to keep her distance from Daniel Morgan, at least physically. She told herself she'd focus on work, prove her worth, and absolutely avoid setting foot near the CEO's office unless absolutely necessary. But at Innovatech, distance wasn't easy to come by. As head of HR, she had to work directly with Daniel on all people-related matters, from hiring and training to benefits policies, things he either didn't care about, or worse, saw as pointless hassles. On her third day at Innovatech, Olivia decided to start with a big swing. She'd spent the previous night perfecting a proposal to increase the hiring budget. Her 5-page report was packed with data and sharp arguments. Innovatech was losing top software engineers to competitors like Google and Amazon due to uncompetitive salaries. The tech team's turnover rate had spiked 15% in the past 6 months, and if they didn't act now, the company would soon lag in the tech race. She emailed it to Daniel early that morning with the subject line, "Hiring budget increase proposal, urgent review needed." To avoid repeating her earlier mistake, she triple-checked the address. Daniel.Morgan@innovatech.com before hitting send. Daniel's reply came 12 minutes later. So curt Olivia wanted to slam the desk. "Proposal rejected. We don't need more people, we need efficiency." No explanation, no questions, not even an extra punctuation mark. Olivia stared at the screen, feeling her blood boil. "Efficiency? Does he think employees are machines?" she muttered, gripping her latte so hard it creaked. She couldn't let this slide. She opened a new email and drafted a 3-page response, citing data from Innovatech's own internal reports to prove that efficiency couldn't exist without talent. At the end, she couldn't resist a subtle dig. "Efficiency doesn't magically sprout from your desk, Mr. Morgan. It takes people, and people don't work for free." Then, to ensure he couldn't ignore her, she hit reply all, sending it to the entire leadership team, from the CFO to the CTO. If Daniel wanted to play the silent game, she'd make him speak up. The next day, during an all-hands meeting in the 42nd floor conference room, Daniel fired back in a way Olivia hadn't expected. Standing at the head of the table in a fitted black suit, his deep voice steady like during a speech, he said, "I received a hiring budget increase proposal from HR. I don't agree. We don't need to waste money on unnecessary things. The current team can work efficiently without more hires." He paused, his sharp blue eyes sweeping to Olivia sitting at the far end with a stack of papers, as if daring her to speak. Olivia wasn't the type to stay quiet under attack. She cleared her throat, stood up, and said firmly, "Mr. Morgan, if the current team is as efficient as you claim, why did we lose two of our best engineers to competitors last week? Was it because they suddenly wanted a change of scenery, or because our bonus policy is straight out of the Middle Ages?" The room went dead silent. One employee coughed. The CFO, a middle-aged man named Thomas, bowed his head, hiding a smirk. Daniel stared at Olivia, saying nothing, but his gaze felt like it could drill a hole through her forehead. Finally, he replied, "You want to argue. Read. Bring data, not empty words." Then he ended the meeting and strode out with his usual icy demeanor. From that moment, a Cold War between them officially erupted. Daniel slashed the training budget Olivia proposed by week's end, claiming it was unnecessary at this stage. Olivia countered with an 8-page report detailing the tech team's rising turnover, complete with a cost comparison of retention versus rehiring. She closed her email with, "If you want to save a few thousand now, go ahead. Just don't ask why we're losing millions when people walk out." Their email exchanges became a silent battle of wits, and Olivia didn't shy away from playing hardball. When Daniel rejected her proposal to revamp the employee evaluation process as too complex, she sent back a colorful chart proving the current system was tanking employee motivation by 20%, with a note, "A little complexity to keep people is better than simplicity that loses them. Don't you think, Mr. Morgan?" Daniel didn't respond immediately, but the next day, in a small meeting with department heads, he told Olivia to cut the hiring process from 3 interviews to 1. "We don't have time for bloated procedures," he said coolly. Olivia smirked and shot back, "Fine, but if you hire the wrong people and waste time firing them, don't blame HR. I'm just following the law and proper process." Daniel looked at her, the corner of his mouth twitching into a rare, challenging smile. "I don't blame, Reed. I just expect you to deliver instead of making excuses." Their clashes didn't go unnoticed at Innovatech. Rumors spread like wildfire in the break room. "Olivia and Morgan fight like cats and dogs," a young engineer whispered to a colleague while pouring coffee. "I bet one of them's gone by next week." Another employee from marketing, Rachel's friend, giggled. "I bet they'll end up together." This kind of hate is the clearest sign. Olivia happened to pass by, overheard, and nearly spat out her water. Love Daniel Morgan. She'd sooner date a robot. But she couldn't deny it. Sparring with him was invigorating. He was cold, rigid, and sometimes exactly the medieval king she'd called him in that email, but his eyes occasionally hinted at something deeper, a story she couldn't yet read. By the end of the week, the whole company knew about the famous duo. Rachel texted Olivia that Friday night, "You and Morgan are the hottest topic at Innovatech this week. Watch out, you might actually fall for him." Olivia texted back instantly, "I'd rather date the photocopier." But as she turned off her phone and sat on her couch, gazing out her apartment window, she wondered, was Daniel Morgan really as detestable as she thought? Or was he just testing her? And if it was a test, she wasn't about to let herself lose that easily. Come Monday, she'd return to Innovatech with a new plan, and this time she'd make the medieval king yield, one way or another. Part 2. Developing Feelings. Olivia Reed never imagined she'd have to go on a business trip with Daniel Morgan. After 3 weeks of a Cold War at Innovatech, she'd grown used to their email sparring and razor-sharp glares in meeting rooms. But when the CTO announced that a senior candidate, an AI expert from Seattle, needed an in-person interview, Daniel abruptly declared, "I'm going. And Reed, you're coming with me." "What?" Olivia nearly dropped the files in her hands. "I'm HR, not your assistant." Daniel fixed her with an icy stare. "You're the head of HR. This is a hiring matter. I need someone to evaluate the candidate, not sit behind a desk." Olivia wanted to argue, but his gaze left no room for refusal. So on Friday morning, she stood at JFK Airport with a small suitcase, a cold latte, and a grumpy CEO beside her, checking his watch as if the entire world revolved around his schedule. The flight to Seattle was supposed to take 6 hours, but life with Daniel in the picture was never that simple for Olivia. Bad weather delayed the flight by 3 hours. They sat in the VIP lounge, 3 seats apart. Daniel buried himself in his laptop, typing as if he were running the world. Olivia scrolled her phone, texting Rachel. Stuck at the airport with the medieval king. Pray the plane takes off before I lose it. When they finally boarded, Olivia sighed in relief. Her seat was 5 rows away from Daniel. But the relief didn't last. By the time the plane landed in Seattle at 11 p.m., rain was pouring, and a message from the hotel made her want to scream. Due to a booking error, we only have 1 suite available. We apologize for the inconvenience. 1 room. Olivia turned to Daniel, who was pulling his suitcase with an expressionless face. What kind of hotel did you book? My assistant handled it, he replied evenly. Would you rather sleep on the street? Olivia bit her lip, unwilling to admit she'd prefer sharing a room with him over wandering in the rain. At the hotel, the receptionist confirmed. 1 suite with a main bedroom, a small sofa in the living area, and thankfully, a shared bathroom. I'll take the sofa, Olivia declared as they entered the suite, tossing her bag onto it. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Suit yourself. Don't complain when your back screams tomorrow. He walked into the bedroom and shut the door without another word. Olivia lay on the sofa, trying to sleep, but the rain pounding the windows and the chill from the air conditioning kept her restless. By midnight, she sat up, clutching her blanket, and realized she couldn't handle the rock-hard sofa any longer. She knocked on Daniel's door. No answer. She pushed it open and saw him sitting by the window, laptop still on, the blue light illuminating his face. You don't sleep? Olivia asked, her voice edged with tired irritation. Daniel looked up, his eyes weary but sharp. I can't sleep when work's unfinished. What about you? Sofa not as cozy as you thought. Olivia crossed her arms. I'm not complaining. I just wanted to ask if you had an extra blanket. He pointed to the wardrobe in the room. Help yourself. Olivia walked over, opened it, and froze as memories of hiding in his wardrobe at Innovatech flooded back. She turned to see him watching her with a rare slight smirk. Don't worry, I'm not hiding in there, he said, his tone teasing. She blushed, muttering, very funny. She grabbed a blanket and was about to leave when Daniel spoke up unexpectedly. Sit. You're not sleeping anyway. Olivia blinked, surprised, but sat on the edge of the bed, keeping a safe distance. Silence settled, broken only by the rain outside. Finally, she broke it. Why do you hate HR so much? I'm not the first one you've given a hard time, am I? Daniel closed his eyes, leaning back in his chair. I don't hate HR. I just don't trust them. Don't trust. Olivia frowned. Why not? He was quiet for a moment, then spoke, his voice lower than usual. 3 years ago, I trusted someone in HR. She didn't just manage people, she managed my personal life too. In the end, she sold internal info to a competitor for a better job. I lost a major project because of it. Olivia was stunned. She hadn't expected the medieval king to have been betrayed, and by an HR person. I didn't know. But not everyone's like that. Daniel opened his eyes, meeting hers. I know, but I don't want to risk it again. She nodded, then blurted out. I've been betrayed too. Not at work, but in love. My ex left me for another woman right before I was going to propose to him. It took me 2 years to trust anyone again. Daniel studied her, his gaze softening slightly. Propose. You're a take-charge type. Olivia smirked. I'm HR. I manage everything, even my heart. Clearly, I'm not great at it. He laughed, the first time she'd heard it from him. Not cold, not mocking, but genuine. We're more alike than I thought, he said, turning to look at the rain outside. Olivia didn't reply, but a strange feeling stirred in her. Their conversation stretched into the early hours, shifting from work to old scars they'd both kept hidden. When she returned to the sofa with the new blanket, Daniel no longer seemed just a medieval king. He was a man who'd been hurt, like her. The next morning, they went to the interview together. The candidate, a middle-aged man with an impressive resume, answered Daniel's questions smoothly. But when it was Olivia's turn, she asked, "What do you do when you have to choose between personal gain and the company's benefit?" The candidate faltered, and Olivia glanced at Daniel. He gave a slight nod, as if acknowledging she'd done well. On the way back to the hotel, Daniel said, "You did good today. Maybe I underestimated you." Olivia smirked. "Thanks, but don't expect me to swoon over a rare compliment." He chuckled softly, and for the first time, Olivia realized his smile didn't annoy her. Maybe this trip wasn't just fate for work, but for something bigger between them. After the Seattle trip, Olivia Reed sensed something different in the air between her and Daniel Morgan. Gone were the frigid emails and challenging stares in meetings, replaced by an odd silence. Not quite peace, but no longer war. She wasn't sure if that late-night talk in the hotel suite had changed him, or if she was imagining it. Either way, she stuck to her stance. Daniel Morgan was a tough-to-please medieval king, and she wouldn't let him shake her confidence. But their second day in Seattle proved he wasn't the only one who needed to rethink things. They stayed an extra day to visit Innovatech's branch office, a small facility with about 30 employees, mostly software engineers and tech support staff. Daniel wanted to check progress on a new AI project, while Olivia was tasked with assessing the team's morale. "I don't need a long report," he said as they entered the 3-story building in downtown Seattle. "Just tell me if they're working decently." Olivia smirked. "If you want the truth, I'll need to talk to them, not just assume. Not everyone's as efficient as you think." Daniel didn't reply, just shot her a glance before heading into a meeting with the branch manager. The morning passed smoothly. Daniel sat with the engineers, asking about code and timelines, while Olivia roamed the office, chatting with employees. She quickly noticed something. The team here wasn't happy. A young engineer named Eric whispered to her by the coffee machine, "We work 60 hours a week, but no one at HQ cares. Last week I asked for a day off because my kid was sick, and the manager told me to figure it out." Another employee, Lisa, chimed in, "Year-end bonuses got cut with no explanation. We feel abandoned." Olivia took careful notes, a spark of anger rising. This was exactly what she'd warned Daniel about. Neglect employees, and Innovatech would lose them. She planned to wait until they were back in New York to write a report, but an incident that afternoon changed everything. While Daniel was meeting with the branch manager, a middle-aged man named Brian, a group of 5 engineers barged in, faces tense. Eric, their leader, spoke up. "Sorry to interrupt, but we need to make this clear. If working conditions don't improve, our whole team's quitting this week. We've got offers elsewhere." The room fell silent. Brian paled, stammering, "You can't do this. The project's at a critical stage." Daniel sat still, his cold gaze sweeping over the engineers before landing on Olivia, as if to say, "This is your mess. Fix it." Olivia took a deep breath, stood up, and stepped toward the group. She didn't look at Daniel or Brian, focusing only on Eric and the others. "I'm Olivia Reed, head of HR from New York HQ. I get that you're frustrated. Tell me exactly what you need." Eric hesitated, then said, "We want more flexible hours, restored bonuses, and someone at HQ who will actually listen to us. We're not robots." Olivia nodded, her voice calm but firm. "I agree. You're not robots. I'll make sure your requests are taken seriously. But if you quit now, this project collapses, and the ones left behind suffer. Here's my offer. Give me 48 hours to work with HQ and find a solution. Will you stay until then?" The group exchanged looks, and Eric nodded. "Okay, 48 hours." Olivia turned to Brian. I need you to send me the branch's financials and current benefits list right now." Then she glanced at Daniel, waiting for his reaction. He said nothing, just gave a slight nod, a rare sign he'd let her take the lead. For the next 2 hours, Olivia worked nonstop. She called HQ, asking Sophie to dig up old benefits data for the Seattle branch. She drafted a concise plan: a 10% year-end bonus increase, 2 remote work days per week, and monthly virtual meetings between the branch and HQ. She emailed it to Daniel with a note: "This is how you keep people. Reject it, and it's on you." His reply came in 15 minutes. "Approved. But you oversee implementation." Olivia sighed in relief, then met with the engineers to share the plan. Eric gave a small smile. "Thanks, Ms. Reed. No one from HQ's ever done this for us." As the afternoon ended, Daniel walked out of the branch office with Olivia. Seattle's drizzle persisted, but the tension between them had eased. He suddenly stopped under an awning and turned to her. "You did well today. I didn't think you were the empathetic type until you shut up and listened to them." Olivia blinked, unsure if she'd misheard. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Daniel said, his voice low but no longer frigid, "you're not just stubborn. You get the job, and you get people. I underestimated you." She smirked, trying to play it cool despite her quickening pulse. "Thanks, but don't expect me to melt over a rare compliment. You're still a medieval king to me." Daniel laughed, not the challenging smirk she'd seen before, but a real laugh that lit up his stern face. Olivia froze. She'd never thought he could laugh like that. And worse, she didn't expect to find it pleasant. "What's with that look?" Daniel asked, noticing her staring. Olivia turned away, hiding her flustered reaction. "Nothing. Just thinking you should smile more. It's less intimidating." He didn't reply, but as they walked to the car back to the hotel, Olivia noticed his gaze wasn't as sharp as before. During the ride, he stayed quiet, not the oppressive silence she was used to, but one that felt like he was thinking about her, about what she'd done today. That night, lying on the sofa in the suite, Olivia no longer saw the trip as a nightmare. Daniel Morgan wasn't just a tough CEO. He was someone who could change, even slightly. And for the first time, she wondered if she was changing how she saw him too. Part 3. Fake Turns Real. Olivia Reed never imagined she'd become Daniel Morgan's fiancée, even if it was just pretend. After the Seattle trip and weeks of tense work at Innovatech, she'd grown accustomed to clashing with him over emails or in meeting rooms. But when Daniel strode into her office one Friday afternoon, his face showing a rare tension, she knew something was off. "Reed, I need your help with something," he said, closing the door behind him. He wore a dark gray suit, hands in his pockets, but his piercing blue eyes betrayed a hint of unease, something Olivia had never seen in this medieval king before. Olivia raised an eyebrow, setting her pen down. "Help with what?" "If it's about cutting budgets again, I'm out right now." Daniel didn't smile. He stepped closer to her desk, lowering his voice as if afraid someone might overhear. "It's not work. It's personal. My mother set me up on a date tonight with her friend's daughter. I don't want to go, but she won't let it go." Olivia blinked, stifling a laugh. "So you need me as a shield?" "Like, sorry, I'm busy." "Not exactly," Daniel replied, pausing as if weighing his next words. "I need you to come with me and pretend to be my fiancé." Olivia nearly fell out of her chair. "What? Fiancé? Are you kidding?" "I'm not," he said, his tone dead serious. "My mom won't back off unless she thinks I'm taken. You're the most logical choice." "Logical?" Olivia crossed her arms, staring at him like he just suggested she bungee jump without a cord. "I'm your HR head, not an actor. Why not hire a professional?" Daniel's lips twitched into that familiar half-smirk. "Because you're a good performer. I saw how you handled those engineers in Seattle." And he hesitated, then added, "I trust you." Olivia opened her mouth to argue, but his last words stopped her cold. "Trust her? Since when did the medieval king trust a stubborn HR like her? She sighed, knowing she couldn't say no when he looked at her with that mix of resolve and pleading. Fine, but I want a training budget increase as payment. Daniel nodded instantly. Deal. That evening, Olivia stood before her mirror in her Brooklyn apartment, wearing a fitted black dress, her hair loose instead of its usual high ponytail. She told herself this was just a role, nothing more, nothing less. When Daniel picked her up in his sleek black Tesla, he gave her a once-over and said, "You look decent." Decent. Olivia smirked, climbing into the car. Thanks for the overwhelming compliment. The date took place at a fancy Italian restaurant on the Upper East Side. Daniel's mother, Evelyn Morgan, was an elegant woman in her 60s with silver hair in a neat updo and a gleaming pearl necklace. Beside her sat Natalie, a young, beautiful blonde, clearly eager to meet Daniel. But when he walked in with Olivia, his arm lightly linked with hers, both women froze. "Mom, this is Olivia," Daniel introduced, his voice steady and unnervingly natural. "My fiancée." Olivia smiled, tilting her head in greeting, slipping into character instantly. "I'm so happy to meet you, Mrs. Morgan. Daniel's told me so much about you." She glanced at him, her eyes teasing, as if to say, "How's my acting?" Evelyn blinked, then forced a smile. "I didn't know Daniel was engaged." "What do you do, Olivia?" she asked. "I'm the head of HR at Innovatech," Olivia replied, giving Daniel's arm a subtle squeeze as if they were a real couple. "We met through work, and things just happened naturally." Natalie sat silently, visibly disappointed, but Evelyn quickly regained her composure. "How wonderful. So when's the wedding?" Daniel coughed. But Olivia jumped in smoothly. "We're focusing on our careers first. He's so busy, you know." She smiled warmly, resting her hand on his on the table, and Daniel, though silent, didn't pull away. Throughout dinner, Olivia played her part flawlessly. She spun fictional tales of their relationship, like the time Daniel accidentally spilled coffee on her in a meeting and made it up with a romantic evening. Daniel occasionally nodded, even chiming in, "She's stubborn, but I like that." Olivia nearly choked on her wine, but kept her sweet expression intact. As dinner ended, Evelyn took Olivia's hand and said, "You're a wonderful girl. Daniel's lucky to have you." Olivia just smiled, thinking to herself, if only you knew the truth. But the act didn't end there. By Monday, rumors spread through Innovatech like wildfire. An employee from marketing, probably Rachel's friend, had spotted them at the restaurant and snapped a blurry photo from afar. It circulated in the internal chat with the caption, "CEO and HR engaged for real." Rachel texted Olivia immediately. "You and Morgan are the company's official couple now. Explain." Olivia replied, "Don't believe the rumors, just a misunderstanding." But inside, she started to worry. Daniel didn't deny anything when employees whispered behind his back in the break room. When an engineer asked outright in a meeting, "Congrats to you and Ms. Reed, huh?" he just smirked and said, "Thanks." Olivia gaped at him, but he shrugged like it didn't matter. From then on, the company buzzed with talk of the CEO and HR being a couple. Olivia wasn't sure whether to laugh or panic, but every time she passed Daniel in the hall, his gaze felt different, not cold anymore, but watchful, as if waiting for something. Innovatech's year-end party took place on a Saturday night at a luxurious Manhattan hotel. After 3 months at the company, Olivia had gotten used to the curious stares from colleagues, especially since the engagement rumor. She wore a shimmering deep blue dress, determined to enjoy the night rather than fret over the gossip. But when she entered the ballroom, Daniel was already there. Black suit, loosened tie, wine glass in hand, looking both stern and magnetic. "Reed," he called as she approached the drink table. "You're late." Olivia shrugged, grabbing a glass of white wine. "I'm not the CEO. I'm allowed 5 minutes." Daniel smirked but didn't argue. During the party, they didn't stay close. He mingled with investors. She chatted with staff from various departments. Yet their eyes kept meeting across the crowd. And each time, Olivia's heart beat a little faster. Near midnight, as the band played a slow ballad, Rachel shoved Olivia toward the dance floor. "You can't stand around all night. Go find Morgan. Everyone's waiting for the show." Olivia started to protest, but then Daniel approached, extending his hand. "Dance?" he asked, his voice low but not commanding. Olivia blinked, then placed her hand in his. "Don't step on my feet." They stepped onto the floor, his hand resting lightly on her waist, hers on his shoulder. They were close enough for her to catch the familiar scent of his cologne, the same one she'd smelled in his wardrobe. "You're not a bad dancer," she said, trying to sound casual. "Neither are you," he replied, his eyes locked on hers. "I didn't peg you as a party person." "I'm not," Olivia scoffed. "But sometimes you have to play the part." He didn't respond, but his gaze stayed on her. The music slowed, and as it ended, a drunk employee shouted from afar, "Kiss! Kiss!" The crowd erupted in laughter and cheers. Olivia flushed, starting to step away, but Daniel held her hand. "Let's keep acting," he whispered, then leaned down. Before she could react, his lips met hers, soft, warm, and nothing like a performance. Her wine glass trembled in her hand, but she didn't push him away. The kiss lasted a few seconds, long enough to feel his breath, long enough to send her heart into chaos. When he pulled back, the crowd roared with applause, but Olivia only heard her own heartbeat. Daniel looked at her, his eyes no longer those of a cold CEO. "Sorry," he said quietly. "I didn't mean to." "It's fine," Olivia cut in, her voice shaky. She turned and hurried to the balcony to steady herself. The cold New York night air snapped her awake, but it couldn't erase the feeling of that kiss. It wasn't acting. It was real, and that terrified her. She told herself it was the wine, the party vibe, the rumors that had pushed them to this moment. But when she returned to the ballroom and saw Daniel still standing there, watching her from a distance, she knew she was in trouble. She wasn't just pretending anymore. She was genuinely falling for her boss, for the medieval king she'd sworn she'd never care about. Part 4. Crisis. Olivia Reed never thought she'd resign from Innovatech, not after 3 months of fighting to prove her worth, not after clashing with Daniel Morgan, and slowly feeling a deep connection grow between them. But after the kiss at the year-end party, everything spiraled. Rumors about them swept through the company. Curious stares from colleagues suffocated her, and her heart, something she'd always controlled, now betrayed her every time Daniel appeared. She knew she was falling for him, but she didn't expect a bigger crisis to force her into an unavoidable decision. The Monday after the party, Olivia walked into the office with a heavy heart. She tried to focus on work, but the atmosphere at Innovatech had shifted. Employees whispered behind her back, some joking, "Is Reed about to become Mrs. Morgan?" Rachel texted nonstop, "Did you and Morgan really kiss? I need details now." Olivia didn't reply. She just wanted to forget that kiss, but every time she saw Daniel pass by in the hallway, his gaze lingering on her longer than usual, her heart raced uncontrollably. That afternoon, an email from the IT department caught her attention. Subject: Security alert. Unauthorized access to HR system. Olivia opened it, and her blood ran cold. Someone had breached the HR database, stealing personal data on over 50 employees, including salaries, performance reviews, and her internal notes about company issues. Its preliminary report suggested an external attack, but there were signs of an insider granting access. Olivia immediately called an emergency meeting with the leadership team. Daniel was there, seated at the head of the table, his gaze as sharp and cold as ever. She laid out the situation. "We're facing a serious data breach. I've asked it to lock down the system and investigate right away. But my biggest concern is that someone inside might have helped." Daniel looked at her, his voice low. Who do you suspect? Olivia took a deep breath. I don't suspect anyone specific, but HR manages this data. If there's an insider, they could have exploited a gap on our end. Before Daniel could respond, Thomas, the CFO, cut in, his tone dripping with sarcasm. HR, huh? Then shouldn't you take responsibility? Reed? Or were you too busy playing house with Morgan to notice? The room fell silent. Olivia's face burned, but she stayed composed. I haven't neglected my job. If you've got proof I messed up, show it. Thomas smirked. Who knows? Maybe you're like Emma Carter, our old HR. She got close to Morgan too, then sold out the company. Could this be round two? Olivia froze. Emma Carter. She'd never heard that name from colleagues, but Daniel's eyes darkened the moment Thomas mentioned it. He slammed his hand on the table, his voice icy. Enough, Thomas. Reed's not Emma. Stop spouting nonsense without evidence. The meeting ended in tension. Olivia left the room, her mind a tangled mess. She called Sophie into her office, asking for info on Emma Carter. An hour later, Sophie brought an old file, and it all clicked. Emma had been head of HR, had dated Daniel, and betrayed him by selling confidential info to a competitor. That explained why he was always wary of HR, always suspicious of her. But what broke Olivia wasn't Daniel's past. It was what was happening now. The data breach shattered her credibility, and Thomas's insinuations were just the start. By day's end, rumors swirled through the company. The new HR let data leak because she's distracted by the CEO. Though baseless, the whispers choked her. She felt she'd lost control, not just of her job, but of the trust from the people she'd once championed. That night, Olivia sat in her apartment, staring at a resignation letter on her laptop screen. She wasn't quitting because she feared Daniel doubted her. She was quitting because she couldn't stay where her every move was questioned, twisted by rumors, and someone else's past. The data breach was the final straw. It showed her that no matter how hard she tried, she'd be compared to Emma, and her tie to Daniel only made it worse. She typed, "To the Innovatech leadership team, I hereby resign from my position as head of human resources, effective 2 weeks from January 10th, 2026. Reason: I cannot continue in this role after the data breach and its negative impact on the company. Sincerely, Olivia Reed." She hit send, emailing the leadership, including Daniel, and felt a vast emptiness settle in. The next day, Olivia avoided Daniel. She handed tasks to Sophie, giving detailed instructions to keep HR steady after she left. But inside, she couldn't stop thinking about him. His smile in Seattle, the kiss at the party. She wondered if she was running from something bigger, or just shielding herself from a storm she couldn't weather anymore. Daniel Morgan had always prided himself on staying calm in any situation. He'd steered Innovatech through financial storms, fierce competition, and Emma Carter's betrayal 3 years ago without flinching. But on Wednesday morning, when he opened his email and saw resignation, Olivia Reed, it felt like the floor dropped out beneath him. Reason: I cannot continue in this role after the data breach and its negative impact on the company. Daniel reread it, each word cutting like a knife. He knew the breach was serious. He'd spent all day yesterday with it tracing its source, but he hadn't expected it to drive Olivia to this. He called Sophie on the intercom, his voice urgent. "Where's Reed?" "She's in the small meeting room, handing over work," Sophie replied hesitantly. "Mr. Morgan, is she really leaving?" Everyone's freaking out, especially after the data thing. Daniel hung up without answering. He shot to his feet and strode out of his office, feeling, for the first time, that he wasn't in control. The data breach was a blow to Innovatech, but losing Olivia, who'd become vital to the company and to him, was far worse. He didn't understand why she hadn't confronted him, fought like she always did, but one thing he knew: he couldn't let her go. That evening, Daniel drove to his mother's Upper East Side apartment, his mind a whirlwind. Evelyn was in the living room, reading by the fireplace, when he walked in. She looked up, instantly clocking the strain on his face. "Daniel, what's wrong?" He sank onto the sofa, rubbing his forehead. Olivia resigned. Evelyn frowned. "Why? I thought you two were doing well." Daniel sighed, recounting the data breach, Thomas's digs in the meeting, and the rumors after the party kiss. She thinks it's her fault, but it's not. It hasn't found the insider yet. She just gave up. Evelyn set her book down, studying him. "You don't want her to leave, do you?" "I love her, Mom," Daniel said, his voice low but firm. It was the first time he'd said it aloud, and it felt like a weight lifting. "I used to think she was like Emma, the one who betrayed me. But Olivia is not her. She's blunt, stubborn, and always puts the company first. I can't lose her." Evelyn smiled gently. "Then keep her. Don't let her think she's a burden." Daniel nodded. And the next morning, he acted. Olivia was in Innovatech's small meeting room, explaining crisis protocols to Sophie and two other staffers. She kept her voice steady, though her heart was heavy. The breach hadn't just cost her credibility. It showed her how her bond with Daniel blurred the lines between work and feelings, fueling rumors she couldn't endure. Suddenly, the door burst open, and Daniel stormed in, suit rumpled, hair messy, eyes blazing with resolve. "Read," he barked, his voice startling the room. "Outside. I need to talk to you." Olivia frowned, standing. "I'm in a meeting." "No time." He cut her off, grabbing her arm and pulling her out amid stunned stares. He led her to his office, slammed the door, and faced her. "Why are you resigning?" Olivia crossed her arms, trying to stay tough despite her pounding heart. "I wrote it in the email. The data breach is on HR. I don't want the company to suffer more because of me." "Don't lie," Daniel snapped, his voice trembling. Something she'd never heard before. "It's not just the data. It hasn't concluded anything. It's Thomas, the rumors, me, right?" Olivia bit her lip, unwilling to admit it, but he stepped closer, his gaze pressing her. "I know about Emma," she finally blurted. "I know she was HR. I know she betrayed you. Now everyone sees me as Emma 2.0. I don't want you or anyone doubting me anymore." Daniel froze, then shook his head. "You think I doubt you, Olivia? The breach isn't your fault. I checked with it. The insider's not from HR. Thomas, I'll deal with him. But you're quitting because you think I don't trust you." "It's not just that," Olivia said, her voice cracking. "The rumors about us mess everything up. I can't work when people think I'm here because of you." Daniel grabbed her hands, pulling her close. "What they think doesn't matter. I know you're not Emma. You saved the Seattle branch, changed me, made me laugh after years. I don't care if you're HR or anyone else. I love you for you." Olivia blinked, tears spilling despite her efforts. "Daniel, are you serious?" He squeezed her hands, his voice soft but unwavering. "I've never been more serious. You can leave the job, but don't leave me." Olivia stood still, her heart seeming to stop. He'd said love, not in a wine-fueled impulse, but with absolute clarity. She looked into his eyes, seeing sincerity and a flicker of fear, as if he truly dreaded losing her. "But the breach, the company." "I'll handle it," he interrupted. "You don't have to carry it alone. Stay, not for the job, but for me." Olivia gave a watery laugh, feeling relief flood in after days of strain. "You really are a medieval king, ordering my heart around." Daniel chuckled, pulling her into his arms, holding her tight like she might vanish. "So will you be my queen?" She didn't answer, just rested her head on his chest, knowing that no matter the storm, they'd found a way through, not with logic, but with real love. Olivia Reed once thought she'd stay at Innovatech forever, not for the job but for Daniel Morgan. After he stormed into the meeting room, grabbed her hand and said, "You can leave the job, but don't leave me." She'd wavered. But the data breach, the rumors, and the pressure from within herself made her realize staying wasn't the best choice. Not right now. She loved him, but she also needed a fresh start, a place where she could stand tall without the weight of past shadows or gossip bearing down on her. The next day, Olivia met Daniel at the coffee shop beneath the Innovatech building, as he requested. He sat there with a black espresso, his eyes expectant. She sat down, ordered a latte, and got straight to the point. "I'm not withdrawing my resignation." Daniel frowned, setting his cup down. "Why? The breach wasn't your fault." "It's not about the breach," Olivia interrupted, her voice calm but firm. "I need to leave, to find myself again. Innovatech is yours, but I want to build something of my own, free from suspicion or rumors." He went quiet, his gaze darkening, but then asked, "Where will you go?" "A startup in Brooklyn," she replied. "They need an HR head, and I want to try a smaller place where I can really make a difference." Daniel took her hand across the table, his voice low. "I don't want to lose you." "You're not losing me," Olivia said with a small smile. "I'm just leaving the job, not you. Didn't you say that?" He looked at her, then abruptly pulled his hand back, reaching into his pocket to pull out a small box. Olivia froze as he opened it, a simple silver ring with a tiny blue stone sparkling like his eyes. "Then get engaged to me," he said, not asking but declaring. "You can work anywhere, but I want you to be mine." Olivia laughed, tears shimmering in her eyes. "You really are a medieval king, proposing like it's an order." She held out her hand, letting him slide the ring onto her finger. "Fine, but don't expect me to stay home brewing coffee for you." Daniel smirked, that rare smile lighting up his face. "I'll settle for your lats." 2 weeks later, Olivia left Innovatech. On her last day, she handed over her duties to Sophie, received goodbye hugs from colleagues, and got a mix of congratulations and regret from Rachel. "Who's going to spar with Morgan now? But that ring's gorgeous. I'm jealous." Daniel stood at the end of the hall, watching her go, his eyes a blend of pride and reluctance. She turned back, waved, and whispered, "See you tonight." Sophie's prediction from day one, "Morgan doesn't keep HR past 2 years," came true. Olivia lasted just 3 months at Innovatech, far shorter than anyone before her. But what no one expected was that she didn't leave as just an employee. She left as Daniel Morgan's fiancée. A year later, Olivia had settled into her new job at a small tech startup in Brooklyn, where she built HR policies from scratch and turned it into a dream workplace. She loved the work, loved the freedom it gave her, but above all, she loved Daniel. They were engaged, but in no rush to marry. Both were busy, and Olivia liked teasing him. "I'm not ready to be Mrs. Morgan yet. Let me manage you a few more years first." Rumors about them still flared up at Innovatech now and then, even with Olivia gone. New hires whispered about the legendary HR who tamed the icy CEO, while Rachel, now the chief gossip, retold the tale with undone excitement. "They're engaged for real. I saw the ring on Olivia's hand when she dropped by last week." Daniel didn't deny it, just smirked when asked and carried on as the cold CEO, except when Olivia was around. One winter evening in Daniel's midtown penthouse, they sat on the sofa, watching snow fall through the glass. Olivia had just made a latte, handing it to him with a playful grin. "Try it. I added cinnamon." Daniel took a sip, wrinkling his nose. Still too sweet. But he kept drinking, his eyes softening as he looked at her. Fresh from a shower, hair wet, in a towel around his waist, he walked past the bedroom wardrobe to grab a shirt. Olivia, lying on the bed with a book, looked up and teased, "Don't open it. HR might still be hiding there." Daniel paused, turning to her with that familiar smirk. "If it's you, I'd open it every day." He walked over, pulled her into his arms, and kissed her hair. "Anyway, you're not my HR anymore. You're my wife." Olivia laughed, pushing him away. "We're not married yet. Don't crown yourself early." Just a matter of time, he replied, pulling her closer. You're engaged to me. No escaping now. She rested her head on his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. I never thought I'd get engaged to my old boss. And I never thought I'd marry an HR, he said, running his fingers through her hair. But you're the exception, not just at Innovatech, but in my whole life. Olivia looked up, meeting his eyes. So I won. I managed you. Daniel laughed, a warm sound she'd loved since hearing it in Seattle. You won the day you hid in my wardrobe, and I lost my whole heart. They held each other, the city lights glowing through the window, mingling with the faint latte scent in the air. Olivia was no longer Innovatech's HR, but she was everything to Daniel, from a woman hiding in his wardrobe to an irreplaceable part of his life. Now she wasn't just his fiancée. In his heart, she was already his wife. A sweet ending, like a latte spiced with a faint kick of the storms they'd weathered together. Thank you for following this heartfelt Story of Soul and Real Stories channel. Share your thoughts about the story in the comments below if you believe that true love can withstand all trials and sometimes begins in the simplest of ways. Don't forget to hit the like button and share this story with your friends to never miss out on touching and meaningful stories. Subscribe to our channel and help us spread messages of love and warmth to everyone. Let's cherish the beautiful moments of life and love.